Welcome to Naked Notes. I'm your host, Jasmine Willois.
And I'm Natosha Navarro. Thank you guys for joining us on season 4, episode 14 with one of our member spotlights. We haven't done this in forever.
Oh, member spotlights are some of my favorite because obviously that's why we started it for the 5K and 5Y.
Yes, absolutely. So we have two of our favorite people today. I say that about everybody, but I really feel that way today, even more so.
Well, that's a genius is that we get to work with only our favorite people. So, I'm just kidding. We do get to work with the best of the best. But what I wanted to also say about member spotlight is that without whom we never survive, right?
Absolutely.
So members are like the whole part of this program. So let's get into our weekends, but I'm just excited as well to introduce you to another set of successful people.
Yes, and I also wanted to mention before we jump into what we've been up to, what the company has been up to, which I think some of you have been paying attention. But we started this new thing called Ask the Pink Hat every Friday. And this last Friday, I wanted to specifically talk about it because I know it's probably one of your updates. So we had a really special guest talking about charitable contributions that we as a community are giving to. And that's starting to be kind of the theme. We talked about one on the previous Friday and then a new one this Friday. So I love to see where the company is headed. I think we're doing big things over here.
Yeah, so I actually think it was very, very awesome that you led off with that, because this is a great time to say, if you catch us on Friday and you have an extra $10 or $15 and you're not spending it going out, then definitely drop it towards, and I'll mention a few, right? We're working with Humanity for Showers, and then we're raising Chromebooks. So we're going to always try to drop at least for a second all the charities we're talking about. So if you're interested, you can just kind of click the button and get involved. But it's always good to give, especially if you're doing well in a time like this.
Yes, absolutely. So jumping into our personal weekends, what we've been up to, I had, for those of you that remember last week, I announced that I'm having a baby.
Yeah.
We actually did our gender reveal party, which I think I let you guys know ahead of time. You got a sneak peek into what we were having a boy, but this had no pyrotechnics. It was just,
I was going to say, no.
It was just a pinata.
We were all holding our breaths. We were like,
I really awesome hated silence? That I had to put that in parentheses in my invite, like, no pyrotechnics. It was pretty sad, but it was a really fun. It was weird because all of my family lives in Arizona. We're in California. We didn't want to be, especially being pregnant, we didn't want to be around anyone really with COVID going on. So almost everyone was on Zoom. So it was kind of weird having a party with Zoom. I didn't know what it would be like, but it was really fun. Everybody was really interactive, and we did a live, kind of the live recording and stream. So if you think you can't have a party on Zoom, which kind of makes me think that our Mortgage No Lab is going to be awesome, because I was worried about like the energy, what it would be like, but it was really fun.
Very excited. Very excited. Yeah, I got to witness a Zoom party. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if I've actually had a Zoom party, so I'll have to try that.
Yeah, I mean, It was like a whole, at least 30 minutes of us just all awesome. Hanging out and partying. It was fun.
Yeah, I think we could pull it off, Nap Nation. Nap Nation, unite. So yeah, for me, we just, we're trying to remind ourselves that we're in quarantine, but we did treat ourselves to some fine dining, and then we played dominoes. I played dominoes with my son, and he and I were neck to neck for second place, believe it or not. So we're both working around wondering, like, how did we lose to Dad? How did we lose? And I'm looking at him like, how did you lose to Dad? How do you let us lose to Dad? And he's like,
you guys lost to him?
Yeah.
I definitely thought you were going to say you won, because you never let him win.
We were neck to neck for second place. That was awesome.
Oh. That had to make Ab feel so good about himself. He beat you too.
I don't know that he walks around, he just floats around. So yeah. Continue to do, but we love playing board games, and that was kind of what we've been doing, to try to stay inside, and then more beach. So these are things that we try to do to get out and yet stay consistent and safe. So it's been really relaxing.
Awesome. I love to hear it. So let's jump into our review. This one comes to us from Ray C. And just so you guys know, this gentleman is going to be on one of our special edition Ask the Pink Hats coming up here pretty soon. So here's what he had to say. I've done lots of real estate courses, none compared to NAP's professionalism, integrity, and quality of resources. And they built an inclusive community of diverse individuals. It's perfect. That's exactly what I feel like our motto, like our company motto should be. Just write that out.
Right, I know, right? Inclusive community of diverse individuals. I don't know which one I'm more proud of. It again, it's neck to neck. This might be my thing, but between the diversity and the exclusivity of the community, but both are necessary. We find in this community, right?
Yeah. Well, he also talked about inclusivity, which I love, because we are big on making sure that everybody feels welcome, that it doesn't matter where you're living right now, if you're in the States or you're not in the States, if you're in California, if you're in New York, if you're anywhere in between, you know, what your stature is as far as, you know, how much money you're making or what you do for a living. We feel like everybody should have a good opportunity to come in here and learn about notes if that's what they want to do. And maybe they realize it is or isn't for them, but they're treated exactly the same. They're trained exactly the same. They're given the same opportunities. And that's
yeah, and I love it. And speaking of this individual and being on Ask the Pink Hat, just to circle back to that, we're going to have so many cool guests coming up. I mean, it's just really just starting to ignite a fire in just the community at large. Everyone from some of the attorneys on down to people looking to get their communities involved. So yeah, I think there's a place for everyone who really has a heart for this. And we look forward to bringing that to you.
That rolls us really right into our training of 5K and 5Y. That's one of the things we always talk about, making sure that we're helping at least 5,000 families in the next 5 years reach whatever their generational wealth goals are. And right now we have this new process that we've started, and it really should be a celebration, because the way the program is intended is you come into the program, we give you all the tools that you need to get through your first note, and so much so that you should be able to go out and do this on your own confidently. With having the community and all these, you know, the lunch and learns and everything we do, plus everything you've learned. And so now when you finish your first note, you actually get an official graduation letter.
Yeah, we are improving so much. We've come so long of a way. Like, just imagine, you know, when we first started, but we're excited about the graduation letters, because that means that, I mean, really, this leads me, is it time to transition?
Yep, go for it.
I was going to say, it's leading me to my training, my trade desk update, because I was excited to realize that we had a lot of people who had graduated from the community, right? Come back and start buying from other people in the community who are either still active, and I mean by through in the actual training, but actually that there's a pretty active kind of post-Snap Nation market out there. I don't know if that's what I can call it, but yeah, so coming back to that, our trade desk, we give you some pretty decent pricing, okay? And so with that said, there's usually, if you do it right, some room to perhaps either bring someone else in on the deal or maybe even sell the deal later. So I've seen quite a few deals going on. We are happy to facilitate those, but really the training, as she said, is to get you to the process. So pick up things like how that process is done while you're involved. Try to get the contracts, because we'll circle back to you to get that done, but you should be able to now sell the notes if you need to and have all the paperwork handy. So that's one of the things we're excited to have. So we're here to facilitate that, but we just launched resources, which is kind of part of your training, which was we did let loose of our exclusive attorney list, right?
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, we did put that on our Mastermind page, that it was typically something you had to ask us about. Yes. And now we're like, hey, you know what? Why don't we just give you access to that?
So that blew up the nation right there. So just as far as like the training, where we're starting to get more expansive with what we're going to just leave out to, could we see you guys being more ready to get going? We're working with a lot more seasoned investors now, and that's because you guys have been out there and you've had time to work through these assets. So that's exactly some of the people that we're bringing to our member spotlight. So let's bring them in.
Yeah. So Harrison, Nadine, are you both there?
Yes. Hello.
Hey,
hi, guys. Honored to be on the podcast. Thanks for having us.
It's amazing. I feel like I'm at a slumber party I've been waiting for all my life. I'm like,
This is as good as it's going to get on Zoom. So before we get started, I think it's important for people to know where in the world you guys are. So can you share where you guys are located?
So my name's Nadine. I'm from Sydney, Australia. And Harrison is my partner, who's in California.
What part of California are you in?
Los Angeles.
Okay. So we got Los Angeles, Sydney, and you're in Newport, and I'm in San Diego. I think all the cool places are covered.
This is why I really wanted to point that out, because a lot of people think that, I hear a lot of times people are saying, oh, your program is really built for people in California, or it's built for people on the West Coast. And so I want this to be like a glaring, huge, flag and banner in the sky saying, look, you can be anywhere in the world and doing this.
What did our testimonial guy say? He said, we are very diverse.
Very diverse.
And inclusive. So I think this is going to sum it up right there. Great, great. Thanks.
So how did you guys, especially being that one of you is halfway across the world, how did you guys find out about the Note Assistance Program?
Well, we were kind of actively looking into like getting into an investment, and we were interested in real estate, and we found out about notes, but we definitely wanted to find like a guru or someone to help us kind of coach us through the deal, because we knew there was like lots of moving parts. And when you're dealing with legality, it's really difficult. So we found NAP, and then as like you guys were super forthcoming with like exactly what the program was about and what was involved, and then we just jumped straight in.
Now, Harrison, if I'm not mistaken, was it your parent who introduced you to us? What was it? How did you guys actually?
Maybe you found us on Google.
I don't know. How did you?
I mean,
I don't want
maybe
to
they found
tell
us on
your
Google.
story for you, but how exactly did you find us in general?
Yeah, so my father did point us into the direction of notes. He had a lot of great things to say about it and just the possibilities of it. He was very excited, you know, as he is, you know, to tell us all about it. So, you know, me and Nadine, we've always had a mindset of, you know, we want to be able to grow, you know, our savings and be able to do nice things for ourselves and others. And so the note business altogether looked like a really good foundation for that. And since we were, you know, pointed in your direction, we studied a lot of different sources, but I think it was just the upfront personability, like no nonsense that NAP has, that you know exactly what to expect when you join, and you know exactly what's coming. So that was, you know, we had no problem signing right up. It was really like no contest.
I have to say this, Jasmine, because he's saying no nonsense, and I'm like, really, with the pink cowboy hat on, you're saying no nonsense of all the programs,
the right kind of nonsense.
The right kind of nonsense.
Okay.
I was so confused for a second. I think Jasmine was even like adjusting her pink hat.
I was going to back him up.
No,
Thank
is she
you.
getting upset?
No. To be clear, I was going to take your cue and back you up. Thank you very much.
But we were introduced to like a number of gurus. So like we kind of like, we took our time to kind of see what like everyone kind of had to offer. And the thing is that like a lot of additional gurus weren't really that forthcoming with the specifics. And we didn't really like that. It's just like, okay, well, what are we actually getting for our money? But like NAP were a lot more open to that. And I think that's the reason why we actually like really wanted to join you guys. So yeah, and super glad we did.
So what I was just going to say, if I can translate what that means, is that one of the little things that Harrison, I think, if correct me if I'm wrong, you may be in California, but you're originally from, or your family's from, are they from New York? Oh, we can't hear you.
I think we lost you.
All right. So when he gets back, from what I understand, that he's used to this type of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad is from New York, so it was.
So he felt like he was at
the
home.
shoe fits.
Kindred spirits.
He's like, oh, this feels like home. I love it.
The shoe fits.
So when did you guys join the program?
So we joined October 2018. So almost our
Has it
NAP
been that
anniversary
long?
is coming up pretty soon. So 2 years.
Happy
love
early
it.
anniversary.
I know.
That's so exciting.
Place to be.
Yeah. One of the things, obviously, don't feel obligated to say nice things about the training since I'm on the call, but we would like to know, since your original reason for joining was that you felt it was no nonsense, it was really direct as to what to expect. You know, what was your experience with the training? Did you feel like we lived up to what we said we were going to do? You know, did you get all of the pieces that you needed in order to feel like you could go out and do this on your own if you wanted to? What was your overall experience?
Overall, I think the thing that we were most happy with was, most importantly, that Nadine is from the other end of the world, that you were willing to accommodate us with the time so that we could both be on a training call. You even offered, that you would do a session with myself and then separately with Nadine if that fit or schedule better. So you guys are really accommodating, and you really do, take us by the hand through every step. The curriculum is, paced very well, I believe. Each session is just enough information to let it kind of marinate in our brain and then, continue forward. And so that was definitely the biggest thing, was how approachable you guys were and helpful to us, with our situation.
I think there was some like stress like during our process. So like, but everything kind of had an explanation. So like, we were just like, why is this taking so long? Like, you know, because like, especially if you just have one note, you're just waiting for the collateral file or something like that. But like everything made sense. Like, you know, even if we did get stressed or a little bit like worried about like a certain aspect of our note investing, like everything had an answer, which is really great. And
So
just like Harrison said, it was available to talk.
Let's kind of talk about that for a second, because I wanted to make sure that people understood a few things, right? That you paced yourself, which is very important, right? We've had people come into the program and say, you know what, I wanted to speed through everything. I don't have a note or not have a note. Take me through the first phase just so I can go to this event and seem like I'm cool or know what I'm talking about. And this is a real conversation, right? And so the program was designed with people who came here to really get this and have it stick to them, right? And so part of learning, as we all know, just the mere psychology behind it, is that you have to take, you know, time is something that's good as far as it resonating and sticking to you. So I really appreciate you mentioning that, you know, you needed that time in between, right? Not just for your lives, but so that you can work on things. But more importantly, how many notes did you have, or do you have? Because you said you were glad to have us walking with you through one note, but I believe you guys bought more than one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 3 notes right now, actually.
And that's been very helpful, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Natasha's question. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Harrison.
Oh, no, it's just, you guys have been really helpful. I mean, even, you know, it says on paper, you know, that you walk us through our first note, but we really ended up picking up 3 first notes. So, and, you know, there was no like, oh, well, you know, only one is anything that I had to maybe, because there was some time in between each purchase. So I had to kind of jog my memory a little bit on certain procedures, and there was no question that you wouldn't answer, you know, even if I had to just for a refresher or anything. So that was very nice.
And if I can add, that's kind of the humanity of the program. And I bring that up because we talk about like our vendors, right? And so people like attorneys and like that who charge a lot, like some attorneys are going to give you $50 per email. So we sometimes encourage you, hey, if you have the opportunity, while you're on the phone with us, bring up things, right? Because we're going to do the same thing to the attorney. So if you give us a question, instead of you sending that a separate email, we can go back and get that for you. And in essence, kind of shave some things off of your bill, right? So really, everything's kind of streamlined so that everyone can get the optimal communication for the success.
I think that one of the important things for people to see also when you're talking to people that have a few notes under their belt is, what is your strategy? What are you looking to do, you know, on a broader scale, 1, 3, 5 year plan, but really what was your strategy coming into this? And then has it changed now that you're a few notes in?
Our strategy, starting off, it definitely has changed since we started, just more so fine tuning than really like a whole change. But we've always been looking for non-performing notes with significant amount of delinquency, where our preferred exit strategy is to wholesale. You know, we're young, we have like a certain amount of money we've saved up. We're trying to just grow that so we can continue our investments.
We've had we've used our personal capital up until now, but we're actually like getting to a point where everything's invested, and now we're actually searching for JV opportunities and stuff as well. What Harrison said is that like we immediately went for these non-performing notes that we thought could actually be you know, turned over and wholesaled. But at the moment we actually have like one REO, one non-performing, and one actually performing now that we purchased as non-performing, and we're really enjoying that. So like we're kind of open to like all exit strategies. So it's been like a journey. We were really stringent at first, and it took a long time to get our first note. But since we've got one, we were just like, yeah, let's just put in offers for like 5, and we ended up purchasing the additional 2. So it's definitely changed since we've kind of gotten into it.
And that is the beauty of note investing, right? Even if you don't have the flexibility when you arrive, so to speak, arriving with a mentality to be so, because you guys have now, as you just said, you are perfect for someone to JV with. You've been through, or you now at least have in your possession at least every, short of a bankruptcy, right? And so just hold on to your hats, right? Just maybe someone, and not to jinx you into more money, right?
We're open to it.
Right. So good stuff. I love it.
So tell us about one of your notes, like just pick one of the three and the journey that it has taken you on.
All right. So I think it's hard to choose. They're all so different, which is another thing that you guys always talk about. Each one is, you never know which way it's going to go to a certain extent. But we picked one up just recently in Niagara, Wisconsin. And that one was actually pretty fortunate. We ended up finding this note. It was actually a lease options, and our very first note was also a lease option. So that was another interesting new set of parameters that we had to learn. But it actually had already gone through its eviction cycle. It was vacant. We pretty much just bought an REO straight off, and we were able to generally during a whole note transaction, it's 1 year we're looking at, roughly, give or take. And we pretty much skipped to the head of the line to where, hey, as soon as everything is in our name and recorded, we can pretty much just go out and look at selling this thing.
And so I want to slow down for a second so people understand. I mean, most of the people understand the terminology, and we've talked about lease options on this podcast before. But a lease option is really similar to almost like a rental situation where you have a renter in there. And so if you are the person stops performing, you can just evict them. And if the person chooses to leave the home, there's no legal action that needs to be taken. So what they found was that after they had purchased it, this is one of those things where you benefit from the seller not knowing what all their assets are doing. Because I promise you, the seller knew the person was gone and it was now an REO, it would have been much higher of a price point, right? But you guys got to buy it as a lease option because the seller, as far as they knew, it was just a non-performing lease option that someone was still in the home, and you'd have to go through the eviction process. I'm
pretty sure we actually picked that one up at 50% of UPB. So it was like an awesome deal. So yeah, super lucky.
And so now you're stuck with this ridiculous conundrum, right? You're like, oh my gosh.
Terrible.
And so, and that is really where you take advantage of just what's going on right now. So one, let's talk about, if you've listened to some of our current, I think we call it the current state of the market, or the, where we talk about the markets.
Yeah, state of the market.
Yeah, a lot of these communities are still, the real estate hasn't started dropping yet, right? So real estate still trading or selling, should I say, at the top of the current market, wherever it is. So with that in mind, depending on their price point, they can go out there and of course, with them being, not too close to the place, it's probably best for them to just wholesale it. So I'm really interested in what your strategies are as far as getting rid of that, because I mean, this is just a crazy problem you have.
Yeah. What are you guys doing with that one?
So we're just wholesaling it. We have a couple approaches that we've taken: for sale by owner, putting up signs, trying to trying to do Craigslist ads to see what the market is out there. We're working with, one of contact that Natosha or you referenced to us that is in the area and very knowledgeable of the area. So that was very helpful. But as of right now, it's listed on a traditional realtors listing on the MLS, and we also have it on an online real estate auction site.
Did we say what city and state this was in?
Mm-hmm. Niagara, Wisconsin, right? That one?
Yes, Niagara, Wisconsin.
So for this one, are you guys open to seller financing, or are you just hoping to have someone come in and purchase it for cash and you guys move on to your next deal?
Ideally, we're looking for cash to just buy it all together. However, we're not going to hold to trying to find the right words.
Be flexible.
We're flexible. Yeah, we're flexible. And, if someone was able to give us a solid down payment, we would definitely go for seller financing as well.
And that's important. I want to give Nadine an opportunity to talk about it as well. But one of the things that we talk about ad nauseum in the training is that you have to be flexible. it's not impossible to lose money with notes, but it's very difficult to lose money with notes if you are open to multiple different exit strategies and if you're open to different, ways and options to do this. So that is one of the conversations that I had with Nadine and Harrison, was saying, hey, if you guys can find a cash buyer, go for it. This is the perfect time. We're still in like the end of summer going into fall.
Right.
Wisconsin is still primed for you to sell this. But as we get into winter, if it hasn't sold yet, be open to seller financing. So you at least have some money coming in and then possibly sell this note later down the road. So the fact that they are smart enough and they're getting far enough in their note journey to realize and recognize like, oh, I can make money anyway that we do this. So let's just figure out what that's going to be.
Yes.
Yeah, we're just kind of, at the moment, we're just kind of got it like listed. We're going to just see, I think there's been a couple of people like that have been taken through the house. But like, I think we started it a little high, but because it does need some work, but we're just kind of seeing like the reaction to the market, and then we'll kind of mold from there, especially when it gets into winter. And we're definitely open to seller financing if no one wants to buy it cash. So yeah, totally fine.
So far, let's just ask a question. How has it been? So it's this assets in Wisconsin, okay? Then you're in Los Angeles, and then you're even further. So how's the experience been just from an emotional standpoint? Because really, I think once you understand the processes, then it's about how you deal with them as they come to you. So how's that been with you with these 3 notes?
I think it's been like, it's been good. Like, it's a little strange because like, especially me, I'm so disconnected. Like when I first like started like doing stuff into notes and like researching small little towns in the US when I didn't even know all of the 50 states, it was difficult. Right. But it's definitely not impossible. So like it's just finding the right people, and like NAP is just the best for that, because like you've got all of these different like experiences and like all of these different like attorneys and like contacts for like realtors and stuff. So you're really set up for success.
And then dealing with any of the borrowers, have any of the borrowers come back to kind of work things out with you? Has that been extra difficult, or you find yourself even calm in dealing with the borrowers?
We've been, it's been pretty calm. Like we've kind of adopted this very, I don't know, easygoing. We're not trying to be someone that's trying to, shove someone's contract down their throat or anything. We do have a heart, if someone, like for the first lease option that we purchased in Michigan, the contract had expired in April, but the borrower expressed that they would like to have an opportunity to save their house and stay in it. They didn't want to have to leave. And, we were more than open to allowing them to definitely work towards that. And it was, fine by us any which way.
Okay. Wonderful. And so that's good. So it sounds like you're dipping into the right bucket of money, right? To make sure that you're not losing sleep about this. So really, as we move through this, take some points, if you're listening, to find out how they're reaching this level of calm, right? Because we had mentioned before that you can receive a lot of this this information in any way. Okay, yay, I got my blue folder, or dang, I finally just got my blue folder. So I love that reference. I thought this was another time to bring it up. Just as a lot of this is going to be about attitude.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say that when I talk about, 2 of my favorite people, I really genuinely mean that, because you guys are always a pleasure to work with. You, just like you said, and Nadine, this is one area I want to kind of touch base on a little bit more, but it took you guys almost a year to buy your first note, right? I mean, it was quite a while. Like I always pride myself, it took me 9 months, and they beat me and still stuck with it after a year. But the thing is that they never gave up. They continued to tap into the resources, come to the Mortgage Note Lab, attend events when they could. Obviously, it's much easier now with Zoom, considering
what was
locality.
That, right? Let's talk about that. What was that like? Because when we talk about the obstacles, and I speak to both of you, but because it took both of you, I can imagine. But what was it like hanging on for a year without buying a note? And what encouraged you to be involved? Because we have a lot of people who come in and they just disappear. They may come back, or some people that come in and they may have one foot in the, as they say, one foot in the note program, and the other, on another thing. So what kept you guys on? Because I remember running into you guys at events in like Nadine in Orange County. I'm like, oh, look who's here.
Yeah, no, I think we did have a very specific strategy, and we were looking at very specific states because they were non-judicial, and like we had like a very strict parameters that we just set for ourselves. Like it wasn't a rule or anything. We just kind of went, we want notes in Michigan and like, you know, this is what we want. And we weren't really that open. And so when we were scraping the tape, we were kind of like limiting ourselves, but for no real reason. But like for the first like year, we were kind of like looking at stuff and it's like, oh, there's nothing, but really there's lots. It's just that we just had, we just like, you know, forced this like false parameters for ourselves. And, you know, and we're also just getting disheartened because we would fall in love with a deal that just wouldn't go through for like whatever reason. And then, you know, it's really hard to take the emotionality out of that. And I think that was something that we really had issues with when we first started. And I think that's probably the reason why it took us so long to find a deal. Because after that, 6 months on, we ended up picking up 2 more. So, you know, we were just like, you know what, if the numbers work and the paper looks great, let's just go for it.
Give it a shot, right? That is so huge and important for you to talk about, right? So I think that a lot of times when everyone talks about the note journey, they forget to talk about that part, right? And so that is a struggle a lot of people have. And it's almost as if they're talking to deaf ears, because Natosha and I are like, what do you mean there's no deals on that tape? And so once you realize that, you guys finding deals right now. Every time I turn around, I'm getting something from you guys. So it's almost interesting to hear you let everyone know that once you decided to just look at the numbers, things went better for you, right? And so really thank you for bringing that part up. Harrison, were you really, who was the drive behind that? Harrison, you like really, who were you the one saying, just let's just stick to the numbers, or were you the one saying, no, I want to be something I can drive to since I'm in the States?
Not really. We both came around to the conclusion around the same time, because we were both signed on to this idea that, okay, you know, we're young, we have this much amount of money, we need our first, like from the get-go, we knew that we wanted our first note, we needed to be, you know, calculated, careful, do our thorough due diligence, so that it meant a lot to us, because this was our initial investment and this is what was going to propel us forward. So in that, we already knew we were going to be very methodical with our due diligence and with our selection for our first note. But as time went on, we did start to see that, you know, what really matters is, first and foremost, if the numbers make sense, and then we'll weigh that against the pros and cons of, you know, judicial versus non-judicial, or what state that we're going to be in. So
we get that a lot.
Yeah. So really, once we kind of realized that, it was a lot easier for us to go forward with purchasing more notes.
I feel like you just dropped a pro tip.
I feel like there were like 6 of them between the 2 of them. I was like,
okay.
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It's like ding, 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 ding. So if you need to rewind this, luckily you can on YouTube as well as our podcast. But, you know, the thing that made me say pro tip was you realize, you know, at some point, let's just put the numbers first and then the judicial and all that other stuff. Because a lot of times I will just get up and leave a conversation because someone is so stuck on whether it's judicial or non-judicial. And that is drilled into their head somewhere. But as you see, we can work through the rest, because then it depends on what type of paper you have. So I love that. I love that point.
See, I thought the pro tip was when Nadine was saying how these were their self-imposed restrictions. Nobody made them do this. These are the self-imposed restrictions. And you see that throughout the life of a note with people. We kind of talked about this briefly in our introduction in last week's podcast, but how people will say, I have to have this done by October 1st. Well, why? Who said this has to be done by October? Well, because I told the borrower I'd have it done by October 1st. Well, that's what you told the borrower. We didn't tell the borrower that, and it doesn't have to be done by then. Nothing is gonna, nothing is gonna go horribly wrong because it's not done by that date. So the thing about being mature enough in your note journey to recognize, like, this is an us problem. It's not like we have created this problem for ourselves, and being willing to take a step back, reflect, and say, okay, how do we move forward towards what we really are trying to do? Because one of the challenges that we had discussed for you guys was you've had 12 months now of not making any money. So all these deals that you're passing by because you don't think they're good deals couldn't theoretically given you the money that you've been waiting for, this perfect asset that probably doesn't exist. So I'm very proud of you guys for that.
I was gonna say, I think one of the cool things about our program is that while you take your time, you can see other people, you know, taking down notes. You may or may not have seen a few notes kind of come, you know, go full circle while you were trying to find your note and taking down your notes. But yeah, I think, maybe that's we'll call it a pro tip. So you guys like blowing us out the water. That was a pro tip, because a lot of people, you are right, they come in, and this is one of the reasons we ask you not to one, use debt to buy debt. Okay. And two, we tell you not all money is good money, because if you go on, you borrow some money from someone, if you're raising money, there's a difference between borrowing money and raising money, just to be clear. But that's higher level. Maybe when we get Mr. Ellis on, he can talk to us about that, Mr. Brian Ellis. But in my opinion, there's a difference between raising money and borrowing money. So if you raise money, borrow money from someone who I need it done by this time, when I need to see this amount of return, that's pretty much a borrowing of a money. And so you're going to have now, why does it have to be done by this time? Because I want my investor said so. And so again, this is where you become Wall Street. Just to be clear, we're trying to put this in the hands of humans who bring some humanity to the situation, not another Wall Street guy who's like, I have to make 255% return. I'm only making 245. We're shutting it down. People are getting fired. Like, we're not doing this today. We're keeping people in the home. We're working with them if it takes an extra month. So anyway, these are the type of, this is the type of community I want us to raise. And so in some respects, that's where it becomes exclusive, because we're not going to bring in just anybody who wants to come in and just keep knocking people out of their homes when there's money to be made by even keeping them in their homes. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. So as we start to wrap this up, I would love to know, especially if you could kind of rewind the clock and tell yourselves one piece of advice, pre-knowing anything about notes, and really messaging that to the people who are on the fence right now and trying to decide, like, is this the right thing for me? Is this not the right thing for me? What is that piece of advice that you guys would give yourselves or the people in the community?
I think if I could rewind the clock and tell, like, me and Harrison, a year ago, like, apart from don't be so strict, even though there's no real reason, is that you're actually buying the paper and not the house, because, especially being from Australia, like, I'm completely disconnected, and it was really hard to actually remove the fact that, even though I might, possibly mightn't want to live in this property, it doesn't mean that no one wants to live in this property. I think that was a really important kind of, like, light bulb moment for both of us. And I definitely would just be like, just relax and, just go through the numbers and the diligence, like, a little bit more,
Girl, if I can tell you
relaxed.
that very thought process changed my entire outlook. I'm not even sure when I had that same thought epiphany, but yes, it's world changing to your bottom line, but also to the opportunity. So that was awesome.
And I think to anyone that's, like, thinking about getting into notes or is kind of on the fence, I think that if I would have, like, done this years ago, I totally would have. I think that notes are definitely worth it. We haven't completely finished any of our notes right now, but it's getting to that point. And once it has, like, the returns are awesome. So, I mean, like, I think that once you purchase your first note and actually see the potential, you'll definitely just want more of them, which is where we're at the moment. Like, we can't really buy more with our personal capital, and we're just like, there's so many deals on these tapes, God, like, we just want more of them. So, yeah.
Well, good. Let's figure out if we can let people know how they can contact you, because I'm sure there are people listening. We're in about 13 countries now, so someone must be wanting to joint venture with you and do some OPM. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, we're both on LinkedIn. You can search us by our names, or if you would like to reach out via email, noteagentllc@gmail.com. That is the best way to get a hold of us. I do have an office number. It's 323-451-2772. Go ahead and leave a message. I'll return your call as soon as possible. And I mean, we're always interested in talking about notes, more about our journey. If you're just curious or anything of the sort, we love sharing our experience.
Sweet. Well, it was so great. I mean, you guys, I knew you would do wonderfully on this anyway, but considering how many pro tips and really, in my opinion, the people I know for myself, when I was first starting with notes, I was listening to a lot of podcasts because I felt like that was a really good way to dip my toe in the water without being like that kind of non-committal, but still feel like I was learning something. And the podcasts that I felt were the most impactful were when they had guest speakers and I could hear their story, because you can always find a piece in someone's story where, like, that's me, that resonates with me, that's what I'm going through right now, or that's how I would have done it, or I'm so glad I thought about that. So I really appreciate you guys being candid, sharing your story. I'm sure you guys are going to get bombarded with people that want to invest with you, and we would highly encourage you to do that as well, because obviously they're part of the community, but they're both very smart, very good at due diligence. Clearly you heard they're very particular with how they do their due diligence. which is important.
Here's what else I can tell you guys. If you're out there listening, you can always check them out, because one thing about them is they're regulars. And so when we talk about their level of commitment, it wasn't just, external things. They also showed up to meetings. So now, as we wrap this up, we're going to talk to you about some of our meetings. Harrison and Nadine are regulars at the Lunch and Learns and the Coffee Notes. So you can always pop yourself in there. Those are open to the public and free. We'll let you know about the dates here in a second, but come in, pop in, reach out to them. They're always in the chat, but you'll be seeing a lot more of these guys, because we like what direction you're going.
Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Welcome.
See you later.
All right. So jumping into our events, as Jasmine just said, every Friday we do have our Ask the Pink Hat. We are starting where we're going to have people. It's only about 30 minutes. So it's a great way to jump in, learn a little bit more about notes. It streams on our Facebook Naked Notes page, I believe, and then also on our YouTube page live. So you can come on there, ask questions. If you have a super important question, we can even pop you up on the video, or you can just do it in chat, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, and guys, over the next couple weeks, or months till the end of the year, I'm just really bursting inside to let you know all the guest speakers we're having. So I'm not sure if we're allowed to mention them here, but we've got some very, not only big hitters, but very influential people when it comes to the bottom line, your bottom line. So stay tuned. We're going to have some attorneys on there. So drop in, ask some questions, or just build some relationships, right? Say, hey, I saw you on Friday, because it's going to be a good time.
Absolutely. So as Jasmine mentioned, we do have a lunch and learn, but that will have just passed when you guys listen to this. So we will have our next event, which is our Coffee and Notes on October 3rd. That's at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Then we are going to have our Inner Circle meeting, which is very important for anyone who's part of the community that has a note to join this one on October 8th, because Brian Ellis is going to be speaking about raising capital. As Jasmine said, it's different borrowing money versus raising money. So this is something, as you're trying to scale your business, you will not want to miss this one. That will be held at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then tentatively, we are still on track for our Mortgage Note Lab to be online November 7th and 8th, and we will give you more details as we have them.
Now, I do believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, October 3rd, we're also doing a special Ask the Pink Hat. And that one, is that right?
With our reviewer, Ray C.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that we let everyone know, because that one's going to be, it's a great way to end it, but that one's going to be specifically for military, right? Or people, officers of the peace out there, because we're going to be talking about thrift savings plans. So we had such a huge response to that. Belinda said her phone has been ringing off the hook with people. So if you have more curiosity, or if you're now just getting involved and saying, when can I find out? October 3rd, we're going to spend time with an actual police officer, online with Belinda. She's coming back. I know you can't get enough of that. And they're going to sit there and ask some real life questions that you or someone you know or love may need answers to. So I can't wait to see you then. I could not forget that.
Awesome. As always, subscribe to us on iTunes. Make sure to write us a review, like our Facebook page, like our new YouTube channel. Share this with your friends, and please stay calm and safe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining Naked Notes. Jasmine and Natosha are not attorneys, and this podcast is intended for educational purposes only. For more information about how to work with the Note Assistance Program, please go to www.noteassistanceprogram.com to get details of the programs they offer to help you get started in notes. You can also find them on Facebook at Note Assistance Program. If you are in California or New York, be sure to check out their meetup.com page for monthly lunch and learns, note labs, and other events. Make sure to check back regularly for new episodes, and let Naked Notes be your trusted partner on your note journey.